Shankar, it's a long time since we have met.
I know. Today we are meeting. I read your article on Hindu today.
Okay. Thank you.
You had come to Gulbarga, no, sir? He was there at that time.
Yes, of course.
Yeah.
I know him before that itself.
Yeah. The last Epicon, he was a scientific chairman in Chennai at that time.
Yes, of course. Right from my younger days, I know him.
Too many programs are stuck up today.
I know.
Sir, BG sir, good evening. BG sir is joined.
Yeah. It's 6 o'clock. We'll start, sir, Shankar. Good evening to one and all. Wish you all a happy Deepavali. I heartily welcome all the members of API, ICP Karnataka, Holt Medical Academy, and other members of various organizations who have joined virtually from all over the country to attend this program on World Diabetes Day, 14 November, and in honor of the birth centenary of Professor Dr. M. Vishwanathan, and in alignment with World Diabetes Day. On this occasion, I welcome Dr. P.S. Shankar, Professor Emeritus, RGHS and KBN University, Gulbarga, Dr. Muruganathan, past Governor, ACP India Chapter, and past Dean and President of API, who will be joining shortly. I also welcome our own committee members, our patron API, Dr. Maya Sir, Dr. Murali Mohan, Chairman API Karnataka, Dr. Vishwanath, Secretary, Dr. Ravi Kirti, Central API. I welcome Dr. R.S. Mudol, Vice Chancellor, BLD University, Bijapur, who has also joined virtually. I welcome our today's chief guest, Padma Shri, Dr. Professor V. Mohan, Chairman and Chief of Diabetology, Dr. Mohan's Diabetes Center, Chennai, an internationally renowned diabetologist, a great academician, researcher, teacher of teachers, scholar, and a scientist with innumerable publications and awards both nationally and internationally. I welcome our today's speaker, a dynamic diabetologist from Patna, a very powerful speaker and a popular name in the field of diabetes in the country, who will be joining shortly. I also welcome our other speakers, Dr. Rajesh K., a highly innovative faculty, Director of Metabolic Therapy from the prestigious AIG Hospitals, Hyderabad, headed by world-renowned gastroenterologist Dr. D. Nageshwar Reddy. I also welcome our today's moderator, our own faculty, Dr. G. Baswanagodappa, diabetologist and principal of prestigious JSS Medical College and University, Mysore. I also welcome our own panelist, Dr. M.A. Shekhar, diabetologist and a Vice Chancellor of Adi Chinchanagiri University of Medical Science, Mandya. I also welcome our colleague and other panelist, Dr. N.K. Singh, diabetologist and founder of CME India from Dhanbad, doing a great job by sharing the knowledge to all the practitioners in the WhatsApp every day. Let us not waste time by reading their CV profile, which runs in pages. Let us learn and hear from them. As I can see, many have joined virtually from many states of the country, making a national event, which COVID-19 pandemic has taught a new normal life to learn. Lastly, I welcome one and all. Now we have a formal virtual inauguration.
शुभं कुरुत्वं कल्याणं आरोग्यं धनसम्पदः शुभं कुरुत्वं कल्याणं आरोग्यं धनसम्पदः शत्रुबुद्धिविनाशाय दीपज्योतिर्नमोऽस्तुते दीपज्योतिर्नमोऽस्तुते शुभं कुरुत्वं कल्याणं आरोग्यं धनसम्पदः दीपज्योतिर्परब्रह्म दीपज्योतिर्जनार्दनः दीपज्योतिर्परब्रह्म दीपज्योतिर्जनार्दनः दीपो हरतु मे पापं सन्ध्यादीपनमोऽस्तुते शुभम्.
Now we are virtually honoring all faculty, and we have the pleasure of honoring physically to our chief guest and father of Indian diabetology as well on occasion of World Diabetes Day for his all academic achievements and recognition both nationally and internationally. We thought he is the right person to be felicitated on this World Diabetes Day. We are physically honoring him. We have the opportunity to honor him physically also. We have made arrangements to honor him in his chamber physically also.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Very
And
great.
now we play a small promotional video on World Diabetes Day.
I realized I had to pay more attention to it and started to do so.
I know there's issues, with eyesight. You can lose your sight. You can, foot problems.
En realidad no le tomé mucha importancia a la enfermedad. Entonces,
Many of them have complications now that we wouldn't have seen perhaps 10 years ago.
Por supuesto que sí. Los pacientes con diabetes cada día van aumentando, cada día se diagnostican muchos más pacientes.
I think for healthcare providers, there's too much to talk about. And so when you see a healthcare provider, they're really monitoring your numbers.
I do receive information.
People who support you, who you can talk to, who you can learn from. This is
El inicio es la educación. Los recursos.
My personal advice to everybody is to take care of your kidney health, eye health.
Now I request Dr. P.S. Shankar sir to address the gathering. Kindly unmute, sir. Unmute. That's
Dr.
okay now.
Mohan, Dr. Muruganathan, Dr. Mudol, Dr. Ajay Kumar, Dr. Rakesh, Dr. Maya, Murali Mohan, Baswan Godappa, Dr. Shekhar Singh, Dr. Vishwanath, and Ravi Kirti, Dr. Sangram colleagues. Wish you all a happy Deepavali. We have assembled to celebrate the World Diabetes Day with the theme Access to Diabetic Care. We have amidst us Dr. Mohan as chief guest, and I welcome him for this program. He has said today that remission of diabetes desirable but not essential. It may not be possible to make India diabetes free, but a diabetes complication free India. Welcome Ajay Kumar and Dr. Rakesh, who are delivering the talk, and Dr. Baswana Godappa, Vice Chancellor Dr. Shekhar, and Dr. Singh, who are taking part in the panel discussion. I welcome the office bearers of the AP and the Karnataka and Center, and Professor R.S. Mudol, Vice Chancellor BLD University. World Diabetes Day is an annual observation that falls on November 14 and is celebrated all across the globe. The day was launched in 1991 by the International Diabetes Federation and was to draw attention to the rapid rise of diabetes around the world. World Diabetes Day was adopted by United Nations in 2006 and has been a day of global observation ever since. 14 November was chosen to commemorate the birthday of Sir Frederick Banting, discoverer of insulin, along with Charles Best in 1921, and he received the Nobel Prize at the age of 32, within 1 year after the discovery, and he is the youngest Nobel laureate for medicine. The theme serves as a beacon of hope. It reminds us that by coming together, by understanding, caring, and acting, we can create a world where diabetes does not dictate our life. The day aims to highlight the repercussions of the unchecked diabetes on global health. By understanding its impact, we can formulate strategies to combat its rise, ensuring a healthier future for all. People with diabetes require ongoing care and support to manage their condition and avoid complications. The 2023 campaign will focus on the importance of knowing your risk of type 2 diabetes to help delay or prevent the condition and highlighting the importance of diabetes-related complications and the importance of having access to the right information and care to ensure timely treatment and management. The focus of the campaign in 2023 is on delaying or preventing the type 2 diabetes and the diabetes-related complications, which Dr. Mohan has drawn our attention with the slogan, Know Your Risk, Know Your Response. The 10th edition of the IDF Diabetes Atlas reveals that 537 million adults around the world are living with a non-communicable disease, diabetes. In other words, 1 in 10 adults worldwide have diabetes. Over 90% have type 2 diabetes. Nearly half of them are not yet diagnosed. In many instances, type 2 diabetes and its complications can be delayed or prevented by adopting and maintaining healthy habits. It is necessary to know one's risk and what to do plays an important role to support prevention, early diagnosis, and timely treatment. Diabetes remains a pivotal global health challenge, and on this day, world unites to raise awareness and foster change. World Diabetes Day 2023 provides a platform for everyone from medical professionals to the general public to learn, share, and act. Current year's theme for the day not only focuses on individual health, but also stresses the importance of communities working together to combat this global issue. The theme aims to highlight the repercussions of unchecked diabetes on global health. By understanding its impact, we can formulate strategies to combat its rise, ensuring a healthier future for all. By understanding, caring, and acting, we can create a world where diabetes does not dictate our life. We are eagerly waiting to hear the talks by Dr. Ajay Kumar and Dr. Rakesh on reversal of diabetes and medical devices, respectively, to be followed by a panel discussion. I wish their deliberations all success. I am happy to be part of this inauguration program. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for sparing your valuable time and your kind words of wisdom. Since Dr. Muruganathan will be joining shortly, now I request Dr. Murali Mohan, sir, to address the gathering.
Good evening, everybody. It's absolutely wonderful to be here with this distinguished galaxy of guests, distinguished guests and speakers. Professor Shankar has already made a very comprehensive introduction to the topic and to the speakers. I'm humbled to be here on this platform with Dr. Mohan, whom we all know. He and his center have achieved great heights in the care of diabetes in India. And of course, the other speakers, we look forward to hearing them. I'd like to make a very special mention here of three people, somebody who inspires us every day, our patron, Professor Maya, who recently achieved the age of 90 and continues to inspire us with his constant guidance, his example that he sets us in being totally committed to education and to the API. Of course, every day I receive education from Professor Biradar and Professor N.K. Singh through the WhatsApp messages and education they give us. And of course, last but not least, my former API chairman, Professor Basungaudappa, who is going to moderate the session today. And again, another inspiring figure. There are many people, I shall not mention them all, but looking forward to hearing the speakers, Dr. Ajay Kumar, on this very, very important topic. We know that diabetes caught early enough can be reversed, and I think the focus should be there. But to explore whether it is a reality, how much of a myth it is, because there is a lot of myth associated with it also. We look to Dr. Ajay Kumar to clear up the myths for us and tell us the reality. I'll stop at this point and hand it back to our host, Professor Biradar.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for your kind words. Now I request our chief guest, Professor V. Mohan, sir, to address the inaugural address. Over to you, sir.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you, Dr. Biradar, for not only inviting me to be here today, but for organizing this brilliant program on World Diabetes Day, jointly organized by API, ICP Karnataka, and Hold Medical Academy. It's very nice to see all medical experts and galaxy of great legends in the field come together to tackle this disease, which is afflicting so many people in our country. Very happy to meet my old friend, Dr. Shankar, and to listen to him. Dr. Muruganathan, a very dear friend, will be joining us soon. Dr. Murali Mohan, thank you for those comments. Of course, the two speakers who are going to speak are brilliant orators, and Dr. Ajay Kumar is one of the most brilliant orators in this country, and I look forward to hearing his views about reversal of diabetes myth or reality. In fact, I've written an article on that in the Hindu just today. It came out like an editorial in the Hindu actually. And then, of course, the topic of medtech devices for diabetes by Dr. Rakesh, which is another burning topic of the day. I'm very glad that Dr. Basavana Godappa is moderating the session, and to Dr. Vishwanath and all others who are not named, my good friends, Dr. M.A. Shekhar, Dr. N.K. Singh, and all others who are involved in this. Thank you very much for holding this event. Now, why are we so much bothered about diabetes in this country? And I'll just give you a different flavor of the whole thing. Now, the ICMR INDIAB study published in June this year was the effort of 15 years of work. That's the amount of time it took to sample the whole country. No other country has attempted a study like this, because normally what they do in China, in US, they'll take a few spots here and there, north, south, east, west, one state here, one state there. And even that whole state they will not study. In the US, for example, they do telephone calls. They don't even go home to check blood sugars. When we started the study 15 years ago, my daughter came to me, Dr. Anjana, and she said, what all you're doing in Chennai is not sufficient, because Chennai is not India. That's what she said. So I said, what is India? She said, India is India. We have to study India. So, and that is how Dr. Ajay Kumar was the principal investigator for his state, Bihar state, when we did the study. And we got top people from all over India as the principal investigators. And then we had the honor, MDRF had the honor of actually coordinating the whole study. And of course, thanks to ICMR for funding such a big study. But at the end of it all, we achieved what was almost impossible. A representative sample of 1.4 billion people, sampling every state in the country, getting data on every state in the country, not just on diabetes, but also on hypertension, obesity, dyslipidemia, pre-diabetes, doing OGTTs on the entire population that was screened. 113,000 people studied. Almost everything about this study is so impossible to even imagine that not only this paper got published in Lancet, but recently Lancet came back to us and said, can you write an article about how you did the study? We want one more article on that. And so challenges in doing INDIAB was another article which is published by Lancet. They wrote to us and said, this must have been an impossible study to do. Why don't you write about that? So we had to write about how we got hijacked, how we got kidnapped, how we got arrested in Maharashtra. Because in Maharashtra, they said that Mumbai is not Maharashtra and Maharashtra is not Mumbai. But we said Mumbai is the capital of Maharashtra. We had taken permission for Maharashtra. We had not taken separately for Mumbai. They said Mumbai is not Maharashtra. Mumbai is Mumbai. So, I mean, we get into situations which you'll never even imagine when you do a study. And so our people are put in jail actually for illegally doing a study. And then we had to quickly get a fax from ICMR to say that we'll get it from Mumbai also. And then within 1 hour we got it and then they were released from jail. So this is the kind of challenges which we went through. But at the end of it all, we came up with some staggering numbers. 101 million people with diabetes and 136 million people with pre-diabetes. Now, when this paper got published, right from the health minister, we got calls. Hey, what are you saying? They thought they'll even lose the election if they say, because their fault, that so many. I said, it's not your fault at all. If people are eating too much, they're putting on weight and become obese, it's not your fault, Oh, then it's not our fault. Then it's okay. What should we tell them? You tell them that you've got 136 million people in whom you can prevent diabetes and that your government will take all action. That's a fantastic point. We'll talk about that, they said. And then meanwhile, BBC called us and they said, so India's gone, huh? India's totally, what India's gone? India's not gone anywhere. No, with 136 million pre-diabetic and 101 million people, India's finished. They said, India's not finished. India will win in everything, including World Cup will win. And diabetes also we will learn. We know how to look after ourselves. You don't have to teach us. They think we are still their slaves or something. And so we told them, we have that many people with diabetes. We can do a study like this. We know how to manage it also. You don't have to tell us. And it's occasions like this, World Diabetes Day, where we have to spread the message. It's not just celebrating, and it's not just Banting's birthday that we're celebrating. Of course, it's very important, and he deserves World Diabetes Day being called after him. What have we done in 100 years? That is what people are asking. Okay, he discovered insulin. What have you done? What have you done, and what have you done for us? Same insulin is giving us, which he discovered 100 years ago. Any improvement in that? Can you get rid of this insulin for us? This is the kind of expectations which people come up with. So we've got a lot of responsibility, whether it's type 1 diabetes, type 2 diabetes. Today we have, just last week, the big news was air pollution producing diabetes. Okay, something you never thought of. We always think of obesity and wrong food and less of exercise and stress and lack of sleep. But now pollution, PM 2.5 particles going as endocrine disruptors and damaging your pancreas and damaging your liver and producing insulin resistance and producing diabetes. Both hypertension and diabetes have been shown due to that. Just now we are writing another paper from Pure where the heart attacks are very high in people who have very low risk of cardiovascular disease by the usual standards. If you take Framingham score or this score, that score, they are not supposed to get that, and they're still getting. I said, yeah, you're not accounting for things like pollution. They may be going and producing some problems. So as we learn and as we teach every year, new knowledge is coming. Last year, if we had spoken on World Diabetes Day, we wouldn't even have mentioned air pollution. Today, we have to mention air pollution as diabetes. So knowledge is something which is progressing. And every time we think we know everything, something new will come which will completely shatter our whole thing. Who would have thought that an injectable for losing weight, which I hope Dr. Rakesh talks about, a drug will become a billion, not 1 billion, but hundreds of $billion industry just for an injection once a week to reduce weight. I would have thought people won't even take it. People are wanting for it, and black market they're going, and getting it. And India is already in black market. It has come, although it's not even officially announced here. So things are changing very rapidly. But what we have to keep in mind is, why are we doing all this? The main thing is to let our people live a long and healthy life without diabetes. We don't achieve that. See, everybody is now focused on reversal. Reversal. As if all these 50 years we've been doing all nonsense. And only now the big reversal wallahs have come, who are not even doctors, they're software engineers, and they have all the answers. And all of us are actually criminals. Why? Because we are writing products. We are writing medicines. You should not give medicine. Giving medicine is a sin, they say. We have the saviors. We have come to save you from all these doctors, all these diabetologists, physicians who are cheating you by giving you medicines with the pharma benefits. So that is why I wrote that article saying that reversal is nice to have, but it's not essential. It's desirable, but it's not essential. It's not even possible for everyone. So what we have to do is to ensure that people live a long and healthy life despite diabetes. There should not be any blindness in India due to diabetes. There should not be a single amputation due to diabetes in India. If I'm a road accident, train accident, there's a different thing. But due to diabetes, not a single one. Kidney failure due to diabetes should become zero. Nobody will develop kidney failure. If all our A1Cs came down to below 7%, kidney failure is almost gone. Okay, due to diabetes. Such a simple thing. Okay, and then of course nerve complications and impotence, and today we have liver problems also coming. So we have inaugurated liver clinic now. So fatty liver going on to cirrhosis and producing hepatocellular carcinoma on one side, those things are happening. If we are able to ensure that every person with diabetes can live up to 100 years of age, with God willing, of course, with no complications, diabetes does not affect their lifestyle. They have, in fact, they become better than a person without diabetes because they have controlled it so well that their quality of life is so much better. Then all our meetings will have sense. All our World Diabetes Day meetings have sense. As long as we're not doing that and we're just meeting and talking something and then going back and doing the same thing and our patients continue to suffer, I don't think we're doing justice to our patients. And that is what I keep telling on World Diabetes Day. Let us again reorganize ourselves. Let us have a pledge that we'll all work together. Every single person that comes under our care, at least those who come under our care, forget about India, forget about those who are coming to you. Are they getting the A, B, C, the A1C under control, blood pressure under control, and the cholesterol under control? Is there some amount of D, discipline? Are they, following a diet? Are they going on an exercise? Are they stop smoking? Have they reduced their alcohol? Are they sleeping on time? These are simple things which we can do. And guess what? The INDAP 13 paper, INDAP 17 paper showed the numbers, but INDAP 13 looked at the level of care. 7% of people with self-reported known diabetes. Dr. Shankar said that half of them are not even diagnosed. Leave them. What about those who are diagnosed? Are they following everything? Are they getting? 30% have A1C under control, about 48% have blood pressure under control, about 60% have their lipids under control. If we combine all the three, only 7% are achieving it. All the three, A, B, C. 7%, 93% are not achieving. What are we talking about on World Diabetes Day? We're talking about cure, we're not even controlling the people whom we are seeing. Can we make that 7% to 20%, 30%? Let's not talk about 100%. From 7% by next World Diabetes Day, can we make it 15%? That will be a great achievement if we are able to do that. Can we take that A1C less than 7%, 30% to 50%? Half of the people whom we are treating, 1 and 2, can we achieve it? That will be a great achievement. So on World Diabetes Day, let us set ourselves simple, realistic goals, which all of us can achieve. Whatever we talk, at the end of the day, if we have not achieved our ABC, we are also at fault, because there is clinical inertia in ourselves also. We are also to blame. You may say, oh, because patient ate ice cream, patient's daughter got married and wedding was there. All that is fine. What have we done? Have we contributed? Have we instilled in them the need to control? If we have not done that, we have failed, and Frederick Banting will keep turning in his grave. He'll say, why did I discover this insulin? Because that only people are living longer, and today they would have all died and gone due to ketoacidosis. Now they're all living and developing complications because of me. I shouldn't have discovered that insulin. First of all, that insulin is not even available to people. Every child in this country, can you get free insulin? Even if it is free, is it available? Is it accessible? Is it affordable? Is it given? Okay, leave India. What about in Africa? Every child has insulin? You're joking. Children are dying. Type 1 children are dying due to lack of insulin. So 100 years after Banting, as we celebrate World Diabetes Day on the day he was born, we have not achieved what he gave it away free. He said insulin is for the world. He gave it away free. But we have not done anything. Collectively, we have not done. We have not made enough noise. If we all come together, only if we make enough noise, the government will listen to us. People will listen to us. Our voice has to be loud. Our voice has to be strong. That is the message for World Diabetes Day. Thinking of a cure for diabetes, thinking of something else, that is there. Let it come. Till that come, what are we going to do? We've got a low-hanging fruit there. Let's catch that low-hanging fruit. And we've got lots to do. And that is why I congratulate Dr. Biradar for calling together, because unless you have an occasion to talk like this, we don't get motivated. We don't know what to do. We don't know what our goals are. We don't have a path. We don't know what to focus on. Now we know what we have to focus on. Just focus on ABC. Get your A1C under control, blood pressure under control, cholesterol under control. How you do it is left to you. You do it as you want. That's my message for World Diabetes Day. Congratulating all of you for doing this, and thank you for giving me this opportunity.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for sparing your valuable time, and your words of wisdom are well taken. We follow accordingly. Thank you once again. Thank you for joining. Now we move on to the scientific session. I request Dr. Basanagappa sir to take over for further proceedings. Since all the speakers have already been introduced, let us go ahead for the first talk by Dr. Ajay Kumar sir. Over to Dr. Basanagappa sir.
Thank you, Mohan sir. That was a comprehensive alert message that is given by you to everybody, and it is very, very clear, crisp summary of what is the current status of diabetes practice in India. And let us all get inspired by your work. We congratulate you for taking such a tremendous planning and doing all these kind of studies and giving us data what we have in India. Without wasting further time, I thank Dr. Biradar and API Karnataka chapter for convening this meeting and giving me the opportunity to moderate this session. Wonderful speakers are there. I now request Dr. Ajay Kumar to talk on reversal of diabetes. Is it a myth or reality? The other day we had a oration given by Dr. Shashank online, of course, in our medicine update program at Mysore. And he gave a fantastic oration. Let us now listen to Ajay Kumar, who has done a lot of work in the field of diabetes. Listen to him about the very, very burning topic, a very exciting topic, reversal of diabetes. Is it a myth or reality? Over to Ajay Kumar, please.
Honorable Chairperson, distinguished luminaries in the field of diabetes who have collected on this platform, and dear delegates. Let me first start this proceeding by thanking Dr. Biradar for giving me this opportunity to share some data about diabetes reversal. Dr. Mohan has very eloquently guided us that what is achievable and what is desirable. And this topic of diabetes reversal is a very dangerous topic. While it is a very welcome topic, it is possible that at least a small percentage of patients can achieve diabetes remission or reversal, but at the same time, it can initiate people into a path which can lead to destruction, hoping that we will cure diabetes, we will get reversal, and in fact, they achieve at the end of the day lots of complications. Now I start with this first slide, which has been seen by everybody who is interested in diabetes, that is the natural course of type 2 diabetes. I'm not going to talk about the persistent insulin resistance and declining beta cell function, but I would like to draw your attention to this window of opportunity, what we call pre-diabetes and obesity before the clinical onset of diabetes. And I think if we focus on this area, then we can completely change this perception of current definition of diabetes. I think today we talk about diabetes as a chronic progressive condition where we know that there is an inexorable decline in the beta cell function, beta cell mass, and there is rise in blood sugar irrespective of any treatment that you offer to your patient. And majority of the patients will eventually end up taking insulin. So it's very, very difficult that we are dealing with a condition which is progressive in nature. Now we have two terms that we talk about, reversal and remission. Reversal is return to normoglycemia, and remission we define as normoglycemia maintained for at least 3 months in the absence of glucose-lowering drugs. Now, this is a definition which has been accepted by most of the recommending bodies across the world like ADA, ESD, Diabetes UK, and Endocrine Society, that if you bring the HbA1c to less than 6.5% or a fasting plasma glucose of less than 126, without any pharmacotherapy for 3 months, then you can say that my patient is under diabetic remission. Now, what is the basis on which we are talking about this possibility of diabetes reversal or remission? I think we are quite aware about the glucotoxicity and lipotoxicity. I will briefly touch upon this, but I should also be talking about these two hypotheses. One is called the twin cycle hypothesis, and the other is called beta cell dedifferentiation. Now, this we know very well, that at one end of the spectrum, we have the chronic hyperglycemia, and the other end, we have the high amount of fatty acid in the system. And we know that this combined effect of glucotoxicity and lipotoxicity will lead to, as I said, destruction of the beta cell over time. Now, you can have a number of factors. It has to be a genetic predisposition, dietary fat, and then oxidative stress, endoplasmic reticulum stress, all will eventually lead to beta cell dysfunction and beta cell death. Now, this is the twin cycle that I was talking about. Even though the prints are small, this is a beautiful slide to explain to you that people who are taking normal amount of diet and their lipid deposition in the system, when I say system, it's not the whole body only, I'm also talking about the hepatic fat, the pancreatic fat. What will happen that this liver cycle and the pancreatic cycle is normal. In contrast to what we see in a patient who has got pre-diabetes or diabetes, that because of the increased fat in the liver on a background of insulin resistance, what happens that when insulin wants to suppress the glucose production, it fails to do so. And at the same time, this fatty deposition goes on into the pancreas. So pancreatic beta cells are also loaded with the fat. And then what happens that this deposition of fat in the liver cells and in the pancreatic cells make your life very difficult. And based upon this assumption that if we remove this fat from liver and pancreas, then possibly we will restore the beta cell function and we will control the blood sugar in a much better way. This is a very elegant work done by Roy Taylor's group. And this is a difficult slide, but I think it's very easy to understand if I take you through this slide. If you embark upon a program of weight loss, what you can clearly see that pari passu with the reduction in the blood sugar, there is a reduction in the hepatic glucose production. And again, along with that, there is reduction in the hepatic fat. So reduction in the hepatic fat will lead to decreased hepatic glucose output and will lead to decrease in the blood sugar level. When you focus your attention on the pancreas, the moment you reduce the pancreatic fat, then what happens that the first phase insulin secretion improves. When you move on the right-hand side, this is the normal insulin secretory response. And you can see that in type 2 diabetic patients, how this is blunted. And then you again embark upon a weight loss program. And then at the end of 1 week, 4 week, 8 week, you can see how beautifully the insulin secretory response improves. So there is a clear correlation that if you achieve significant weight loss, you can actually remove the hepatic and the pancreatic fat and improve the insulin secretion. Now I'm going to talk about three things: the altered volume, the altered morphology, and the altered composition of the pancreas in type 2 diabetes. These slides are very self-explanatory. As you can see here, pancreatic volume is quite less in patients with type 2 diabetes. And now I will like to draw your attention to normal glucose tolerance patients as compared with type 2 diabetic. And look at that. Any weight that we are talking about, 78 kg, 94 kg, 75 kg, male, female, whatever. You look at the beautiful contour of the pancreas here in people who are non-diabetics. And that actually is maintained even if you develop some amount of obesity. But when you look at a diabetic patient, it's not only shriveled and shrunken pancreas, but there is irregularity in the outline of the pancreas. And more obese patients have got more distorted morphology of the pancreas. So we looked at the volume, we looked at the morphology, and then we look at the triglyceride concentration. And obviously in type 2 diabetic patients, we have got increased triglyceride concentration. Now the point is that if we have the entire knowledge about all these things, we should also be very realistic that not every patient is a progressor. There are few progressors and few non-progressors. And it is the beta cell function which actually decides that who is going to be the progressor and who is going to be the non-progressor. And this slide will tell you very nicely, these are the non-responders and these are the responders to your dietary intervention. If you are a responder, this is how your liver and the pancreas will look like. And after a weight loss program, your insulin secretion will very nicely improve. That will not happen in a person who is a non-responder. And what could be the reason for this? For that, we have to delve deep into the concept of beta cell dedifferentiation in patients with type 2 diabetes. Now, as here on the left-hand side, you can see the normal beta cell, the pro-insulin and insulin, and this is the challenged beta cell. Now, our current concept was that once the beta cells become dysfunctional, they are doomed to undergo apoptosis. But our current understanding is that they undergo dedifferentiation because of a transcription factor called NGN3. And if you try to reduce by some sort of either dietary intervention or pharmacological intervention, then rather than apoptosis, the beta cells can be reprogrammed. And that is how you restore very nicely insulin secretion. And dedifferentiated cells will eventually start producing glucagon producing alpha cell. That will be prevented by early intervention. And we have got very clear data, as you can see on this particular slide. I was talking about that transcription factor and how it is very nicely affected by early intervention by either insulin or dietary intervention or whatever. And you can clearly see that once you intervene, then those transcription factors are actually reduced, and then the insulin secretory capacity improves. Here you can see a remarkable reduction in that NGN3 transcription factor after treatment. And this is what gives us very clear idea that early intervention, not only with diet and exercise and other drugs like GLP-1 receptor agonist, but also insulin therapy right in the beginning. And Dr. Mohan has delivered hundreds of lectures on early insulin intervention in patients with type 2 diabetes, not for a long period, for a very short period. And that can make wonders in restoring the beta cell function. Then I bring your attention to another very interesting topic that is called FOXO1 protein. And this FOXO protein is very important because it's the FOXO which actually maintains the dignity and the function of the beta cell. And modification of FOXO protein, this was the Banting lecture in ADA in 2017. And what they said, that they are looking at the possibilities of modifying the FOXO protein in beta cells and protecting it during the hyperglycemic stress. So obviously we assume that if there is persistent hyperglycemia, there will be depletion of the FOXO protein. So here, if you restore the FOXO protein, there will be increased C-peptide secretion, increased insulin secretion, and that is what exactly we would like to have. So this is a very nice description. Hyperglycemia leading to FOXO depletion, accumulation of toxins in beta cell, and the beta cells undergo dedifferentiation, convert themselves to alpha cells, explaining hyperglucagonemia in type 2 diabetes. And if you do intervention, of which now we have some data in the mouse model, that if you actually treat the patients with insulin early, development of beta cell lost their mature identity and dedifferentiated. And when you introduce insulin, their dedifferentiated cells subsequently get redifferentiated to insulin positive beta cell. And that is what this particular slide is showing, which gives us a lot of hope that early intervention with insulin can be extremely effective. Once we have understood this much of science behind the possibility of reversal and remission of diabetes, then we should be also looking at how are we going to achieve this reversal or remission. And I think the front runners in this particular race are the low carbohydrate diet, very low calorie diet, exercise, drugs, and bariatric surgery. Now, let me take you through this very famous Roy Taylor's study of diabetes reversal. And this was a very small study in United Kingdom, a small number of patients, only 49, but that has completely changed the perception about diabetes reversal. Now, these patients were given 830 kilocalorie diet, 61% carb, 13% fat, and 26% protein. And then there was a stepwise food reintroduction, and then weight loss maintenance was encouraged. And what exactly happened? There was a staggering 46% of diabetes remission in patients who actually achieved significant weight loss. And it is amazing to see that 24% of the patients in this recruited group actually had a weight loss of more than 15 kg. So 5 kg, 10 kg, 15 kg, you can see, and the higher the amount of the weight loss, better is the chance of reversal. There was a very clear correlation which Roy Taylor actually showed. But at the same time, he also demonstrated that if you do not stick to this dietary intervention, then slowly there will be relapse. And this is also, that has to be taken into consideration. Do we have anything before coming from this Roy Taylor's study? We had the Look Ahead trial, where the lifestyle intervention in terms of exercise, etc., was given. And we did achieve a lot of remission, but then there was a rapid decline over time when we followed the patients of the Look Ahead cohort. Then we have a number of drugs, and particularly GLP-1 receptor agonists are doing wonders. And you can see here that you can again achieve a very nice remission or reversal with GLP-1 receptor agonist. And their relapse rate is not as high as we have seen in those patients who were recruited in the Look Ahead trial. Then we have lots of a study of early intervention of insulin. These are a few of the famous studies. Dr. Mohan also has published paper on this particular thing. And what is clearly shown that early intervention of insulin for a very short period will give you excellent remission from type 2 diabetes. And then you can be free from any drug if you maintain a lifestyle intervention in that period for at least 1 year or 2 years or maybe even 3 years. So this is something which is extremely important. But the best data which is available was from bariatric surgery. And this is the data of remission at 5 years. And I think bariatric surgery has done better than most of the other interventions that I talked earlier about. Now, we have a revolution of newer drugs which are going to match with the results of the bariatric surgery. I'll come to that in a minute. These are some of the emerging treatments like Orbera, which is gas-filled intragastric balloon, endobarrier called duodenal bypass liner, duodenal mucosal resurfacing. This year, ADA, I was in San Diego, and there were lots of papers on duodenal mucosal resurfacing, fecal microbiota transportation, etc. And islet transplantation, we know 79% achieved insulin independence if you can get it done. A stem cell, not a huge success, but still few centers are trying. gene editing, all these are possibilities. But I would like to finish my talk by bringing your attention to these dual agonists, the GLP-1 receptor agonist and the GIP agonist. Tirzepatide is the best example. Tirzepatide has completed its phase 3 and even few of the phase 4 clinical trials. And look at this huge reduction in the HbA1c. Patients getting less than 5.7% of HbA1c in significant proportion of patients, and achieving less than 7% and less than 6.5% was staggering numbers. And now we are not only talking about the dual agonist, we are also talking about triple agonist, the GLP-1 receptor agonist, GIP agonist, and glucagon receptor agonist. We will be getting results, I think, in 1 year or 2 years' time from these triple agonists also. Very recently, we have the result of the OASIS study, which is a study done with oral semaglutide 25 and 50 milligram, and that is done in non-diabetic obese subjects. That has also shown astounding result in terms of weight reduction of almost 20 kg, 25 kg. And obviously, when you use that kind of drug in pre-diabetes or early diabetic stage, by reversal of the weight and achieving a fat-free liver cells and fat-free pancreatic cells, we are going to make a huge impact in terms of achieving the remission or reversal of diabetes. So dear friends, I would like to conclude my talk by telling that type 2 diabetes is preventable and potentially reversible. We should be very careful to use this word reversibility of diabetes. It is potentially reversible, but it depends that what is the duration of diabetes in that particular individual. What is the motivation of that patient? What kind of intervention we are talking about? We have to be realistic. We should not go overboard that we will achieve diabetes reversal in every patient of type 2 diabetes. And early intervention is the key. Whether we talk of diet, whether we talk of exercise or GLP-1 receptor agonist, or early initiation of insulin for a short period, all these things are excellent, provided they are done much early in the natural history of type 2 diabetes. We will correct the functional abnormalities of the pancreas with reversal of remission of hyperglycemia, and a structural change, of course, will take time, but even a structural changes will revert to some degree in these patients. So I think we have a lot of data. We have got a lot of ideas on which we can work in future, and we should keep our fingers crossed that the science moves in the right direction. It doesn't give a false hope, but realistic expectations should be followed and expected. And if we can do that, I think we will be doing justice to our patients of type 2 diabetes. Thank you very much.
Kindly unmute, sir.
Dr. Ajay Kumar, thank you so much for crisply taking us through the topic. We all know the discussion on reversal of diabetes is always debated, and remission is always achievable.
Dr. Basanagapar, sir?
Reversal is questionable, but there's a hope with all those interventions. Hello?
Yeah, we got disconnected from you. Kindly go ahead, sir.
Yeah. Thank you, Ajay Kumar, for a wonderful talk. We will get back to you with questions from the panel and the participants. Thank you so much. You have crisply taken us through reversal, where I said remission is a reality, reversal is a hope. And let us hope the newer molecules that are going to come up with an understanding of the diabetes care and pre-diabetes era, tackling them, we may put many of them to be under remission or reversal. Thank you so much. Now we will take through to the second speaker, Dr. Rakesh K. is a consultant gastroenterologist, director of Center for Obesity and Metabolic Therapy at AIG Hospitals, Hyderabad, India. He will be talking to us on medtech devices in diabetes. Over to the second speaker. After that, we will open up for discussion.
Okay. Thank you, sir. So am I audible and visible? My slides as well?
Yes, you are audible and your slides are visible.
Okay. So first of all, I thank Dr. Sangram Biradar for inviting me for this prestigious World Diabetes Day 2023. And in fact, it's an honor for me to give a talk with a moderator who was my professor and guide, if sir can remember, Dr. Baswan Gaudappa. So I hope you remember me, sir. I am from 2000 batch, right, sir? Thank you. So without wasting time, I'll get into the topic. So the topic given to me is the medtech devices in diabetes. In fact, Dr. Ajay Kumar has set the ball rolling in the last slide when he told about few of these things. So in the next 15 to 20 minutes, I'll just go through. And as you said, the diabetes is reversible or, in a way, but whatever I'm going to tell might sound a little futuristic for the physicians and endocrinologists in the panel, but trust me, this is going to be there in the next decade or 2 decades. This is going to be the thing which we all look upon and give something back to the society in terms of these medtech devices. So let me move on to the next slide. So as we all know, management of diabetes is a multidisciplinary approach. It's not a single man show. We all know about the diet, food supplements, exercise, behavioral change, drugs, medtech devices, gut microbiome, of course, that's a fancy now, that's going to be the future now, manipulations and endoscopic therapies, as well as surgical therapies. So I don't go into the specific things on that, but otherwise, there is a heterogeneity of these medtech devices. As we all know, most of the people you must have had some experience on the clinical trials, vast experience. So there is no systemic absorption or specific metabolic receptor action in these medtech devices, unlike the pharmacological therapy. And there is different terminology used in this, like sham to placebo, effectiveness to efficacy, unlike the drug trials. And the challenges to develop is you have the CE mark from Europe, you have FDA in USA, PMDA in Japan, CDSCO in India, the earlier called as DCGI. So there are different bodies who have to endorse these in different continents or different parts of the world. So if CE mark is there, you can do it in US. If FDA is there, you can do it in Europe, and vis-a-vis in India. So that's a challenge to develop a medtech device. So because of this, there is a slow growth in this. But if you start with from the mouth till the oral to aboral end, I'll just briefly make you go through what are the devices we have in diabetes. So this is the anti-obesity device, FDA approved. This is a space-occupying oral device in the upper palate. You put it like a bite, how the dentist put, and that will help in decreasing the amount of food you take, which leads to weight loss. And I have put all the slides which have got a literature backup. And mind you, this is FDA approved, which has shown 3 to 4% to 5% weight loss at 16 weeks. So this is a very simple device. You just put it inside the mouth. You don't need a doctor. And then you follow around 6% weight loss. Coming to the endoscopic, bariatric, and metabolic devices, we primarily divide into two, the gastric and small bowel. Gastric is basically where you have predominant weight loss, which indirectly leads to metabolic effects. And small bowel is predominantly metabolic effects, which have indirectly the weight loss. If you see the interventions in stomach, as we all know about the balloons, there are different types of balloons, gas-filled balloons and air liquid-filled balloons. I don't go into the depth of it because I just want to have a superficial view for you of what we do in this. So the balloons are devices which are space occupying, which will decrease the intake of the food by compromising the volume of stomach, and that leads to weight loss. So different balloons which are there in the market, which are adjustable and non-adjustable, and by and large you have around 12 to 15% weight loss with the balloons in 6 months. Now we have the 1-year balloons also. So this is one interesting thing which I know how many of you have seen. It's very fascinating. See, before taking any food, you just ingest this Plenity capsule, which is like a gel form, which will occupy your stomach, and then it produces a hydrogel kind of molecule, so that half of your 3/4 your stomach is filled with gel, and you can only eat food which is up to the proximal part of the stomach. So thereby what you do is you ingest this and then try to eat, then you cannot eat more. So eventually after half an hour to 1 hour, all these hydroparticles will dissolve, and then that leads to less intake of food. It's really fascinating. And there is a, trust me, there's a randomized double-blind placebo-controlled trial on this, and this is FDA-approved oral hydrogel molecule, which has shown significant weight loss of up to 10% compared to the sham arm. Then coming to the endoluminal restrictive approaches, we have many instruments which have come in and gone out of the market, like startup companies in the IT industry. But currently in the world, we have 3 things which we do as endoscopic sleeve gastroplasty, suturing the stomach, which is LIK, sleeve gastrectomy, what a surgeons do. One which is there in India is Apollo Overstitch, and there is another one called POSE, which is FDA approved, not in India. Endomina is another device which is European approved, but not there in India. We have some clinical trials which happen in AAG. So primarily what happens in all these three things, what we have to know is if we will suture the stomach, and then which leads to decrease in the volume of the stomach by 60 to 70%, thereby weight loss of around 15% in 3 to 6 months. That's all about what we have to understand about this sleeve gastroplasty devices. Another one which is FDA approved, but the company has got bankrupt and taken. See, this is something which is fascinating in the medtech devices industry. This particular device got FDA approved. It came into the market, but company got bankrupt and then the device is withdrawn from the market. Just imagine. And it sounds very crude for we as Indians. You know what happens in this? There is a percutaneous device, and the patient, I mean, I don't say patient, the subject eats whatever he wants, the typical bull eating type kind of thing, what Americans do. And after that, you open the valve and then empty the food through this. It sounds very weird, but that is what it is. And FDA has approved this, just imagine. So this is something which was there in the market, not there. I just wanted you to know about this. This is another device which is like, I don't know how many of you have awareness for the endoscopy. So there is something called as self-expandable metallic stents, which we put in the esophagus for cancer, palliation, or strictures and all. So alike that, there is a device which has a esophageal stent with a gastric disc kind of thing, which we developed at AAG. And this is how it looks. I'll just run through a video of how it is being deployed. So this is the first human studies which was done in the world, and that's in AAG. As you see here, this is how the stent it's deployed, and this is the gastric disc. The mechanism, what happens is we are creating kind of pressure at the cardio receptors in the cardia, thereby causing early satiety. And this satiety will make the person to eat less. And that's the reason why this device, that's how this device works. So we have had the first human data, which has shown around 12 to 13% weight loss in 3 to 6 months. And it's easily retrievable. It's an OPD-based procedure where endoscopically you put it and then you take it back. And of course, it's not there in the market. We have evaluated this in the first human trial, and we have submitted that for FDA approval. This is a Michigan-based company which has come, and then we did the first in human device trial with Mayo as one of our partners. So another, which is a fascinating thing, and trust me, as I told you before, this is not what I'm trying to showcase you as some extrapolation. This is a device again in the market. As I told you, the gastroplasty is where we stitch the stomach manually. So why manually? There is something which has come from a company from Israel. It's called EndoZip. This is an automatic device. You put this device inside the stomach, and then that itself will start, suturing the stomach mucosa without our intervention. So that is something which is very fascinating. And this is how you see the animation here. The stomach is being dragged into, and that itself will make the automatic sutures, like how we do manually. This is done by an automated machine. So that is something which is very fascinating. And trust me, there is human trial being done. The 10 subjects have been done in Italy with one of our close colleagues, Ivo Boskowski, and he has published the article also. So this is going to be the future where you don't need a manual intervention. All you need is put the scope inside, and that itself will start stitching the stomach. So that's the EndoZip. So that is the first part of my talk. Second part of my talk, which you folks will be very interested, is what about diabetes, obesity, and NAFLD, or the fatty liver. In fact, I always say in any of these international conferences of American Society or in European Society, the unique selling point when any startup company in medtech device comes and approaches me is, if you say I treat fatty liver, then the eyebrows raise for the FDA and C. If you say I treat diabetes, I treat obesity, then they say, okay, many devices are there in this. So if you have a combo of this, then, to treat this, then that is something which is fascinating. So before going into diabesity as such, you are all learned audience. I don't have to go into this. I just made 4 to 5 slides of medtech devices only for diabetes. In this, you have the continuous glucose monitoring, which is again a game changer. I think many of our patients, or in fact, I'm sure many of the people who are in the audience must be having this continuous blood glucose monitoring devices, which will give a real-time data, and I don't have to get into that. Then you have the insulin pumps, which are a game changers, which have got tube and tubeless, which are precise for dosing the insulin instead of giving a manual shots. Then you have implantable insulin pumps, which also will reduce this frequency of poking the injections, and you have the subcutaneous implants. Then you have the lancets and lancing devices, which are the finer needles, which will give less pain compared to the routine conventional needles. Then, of course, artificial pancreas, I think the previous speaker also spoke about, where you have the insulin pump and continuous blood glucose monitoring, which will be maintained by a computer algorithm, and then that will control, and it will have an automated insulin delivery, which is again a game changer in treatment of diabetes. Then you have the foot thermometers and monitors, which the podiatrists are interested, because most of them have got the diabetic neuropathy, and there is a lot of evolving medtech devices in these foot thermometers, because that's it's as essential as maintaining the euglycemia, because we see patients who have got a terrible quality of life index when we have this neuropathy and foot ulcers. Then the smart insulin pens and the insulin dose calculators, again, they have the Bluetooth connectivity, and they remind the person how much dose has to be taken, which is automized. And also the insulin dose calculators, which again is something which is a game changer in insulin management. So coming to the medtech devices for diabesity, as I told you, if you intervene primarily on the small bowel, either endoscopically or surgically, that will have a direct effect on the metabolic effects. But if you interfere in the the stomach, then you have weight loss leading to metabolic effects. So primarily, I am going to talk on the bariatric endoscopy in small intestine, at the level of small intestine, for treating diabesity. So you have the small intestine bypass liners, duodenal ablation techniques, and intestinal anastomosis therapy. So as told by previous speaker, there is no doubt bariatric surgery, the Roux-en-Y bypass, is the answer for treating diabetes and obesity. But again, surgery is surgery. Mind you, you ask any bariatric surgeon, only 1% of the people get onto the table, even if you convince n number of patients. That's the turnover of patients to bariatric surgery. That is the gold standard, no doubt. But again, getting onto the table to convince a patient is a Herculean task. So we as endoscopists started developing a duodenojejunal bypass liners, which have the same mechanism of action as surgery, but it's a minimally invasive or kind of a daycare procedure. So that is where you must have heard of this endo barrier, which is a duodenojejunal bypass liner, which coats the first part of the duodenum, thereby inhibiting the absorption of nutrients, enhancing the GLP-1 and GIP-1 analog secretions, thereby improving the insulin sensitivity. So this is something which is alike what the GLP-1 analogs, which are doing the, I can say, havoc in the market. You or more learned audience of the long-term consequences or the long-term pros and cons of those, because every third month we have an article in the NEJM, which is a mind-boggling. So the endo barrier, what happened is it was FDA approved, but because of the side effects of liver abscess of these barbs, the FDA has withdrawn this device. So we at AAG, with a team from Minneapolis, it's called Metamodics, started working on this duodeno bypass jejunal liner, where these barbs have been eliminated, and we have a biflange stent which works in this way, where it is a very simple, easily deployable daycare procedure, which can be done by an average endoscopist anywhere, which doesn't need any big setup of ERCP or something like that. So this is how it is done. I'll just go through. This is animation, but I'll show you how it is done on a human model. So you need to place this biflange stent here, and this is a PTFE made sheath, polyteflon fluoroethylene sheath, which covers the first 60 centimeters of the duodenum. That is where the metabolic control happens. And this will inhibit the absorption of nutrients. As you see here, this is the sheath which is covered. It hardly takes 10-15 minutes to deploy this device. And even the retrieval mechanism also is very simple. It hardly takes 5 minutes. So we typically keep it for 3 to 6 months. And after 6 months, we take the device out. Device extraction very simple. You pull it with a lasso, and then the whole metal stent collapses, and then you just have to pull it out. So this is how it is retrieved. That was how it was deployed, and this is how it is retrieved. And once you retrieve it, you hardly take 5 minutes to take it out. So the first in human studies in the world was done by our group, where we have seen improvement in HbA1c by 1.8% with around 12% weight loss in 6 months. But not all looks as rosy as it is. What we had is we started having 30% migration of this device into the small intestine below the jejunum, because the most robust migration happens in the pyloroduodenal area, which many people don't know. So because of that, we had difficulty. Then we went back to the bench side, then started developing an anchor which will prevent this stent to migrate down. And then we again came back. In fact, the last IDMS, which Dr. Sangram and all have attended, we demonstrated the first in the world device in a open forum, because this was the animal experiment. And after that we came, this was the first in human trial. With modification we came, and so far we are showing good results, and the migration issue has been tackled. Another device which I just want to show you briefly is again similar like Roux-en-Y bypass, how you do. So this is from Elevitix Medical. It's again an Israel-based company. The concept is same. I have animation. I don't have a original human video. So this is again the same PTFE sheath, but instead of the biflange stent what we have used, these guys used a ring which will prevent this migration of the device into the distal part of the small intestine. So this is something which I thought I'll just showcase to you. And the second thing which Dr. Ajay was talking about is ablative therapy. So this is very fascinating, the duodenal mucosal resurfacing. What we do in this is the duodenal mucosa is being ablated with hot water at 90 degrees centigrade, where we start doing the ablation at second part of the duodenal level beyond the papilla up to 10 to 15 centimeters. So as you see here, sequentially, the duodenum, the balloon is inflated and hot water is pushed, and this will ablate the mucosa. And once the mucosal ablation happens, then there will be a destruction of the enterochromaffin cells. And this again, there is a published literature with a randomized controlled trial in one of the topmost journals in the gastroenterology, the GUT, the British Medical Journal group, where they have found reduction in HbA1c with improvement in the AST, ALT parameters. As I told you, the USP is fatty liver, and also improvement in the HOMA-IR and other cardiovascular parameters. So that is about the duodenal mucosal resurfacing using hot water. There are other new therapies where we are doing the mucosal ablation of duodenum with laser, radiofrequency ablation. Electroporation is one which is now the talk of the town. Steam or vapor or the cryoablation. Electroporation is one which is now probably going to be the next, the look forward treatment for duodenal mucosal ablation, because with hot water there was a little bit of the strictures and it's a little crude technique, but this is a very high-end technique as you see on the screen. So once you pass this device along with the endoscopy assisted, so this will ablate the mucosa 360 degrees. And this will do the same mechanism of action, but this is a more modified technique compared to the DMR, which is a little crude technique. And trust me, this is how it looks. And there is now an established data from Jack Bergman's group in Germany and from Mayo group in Rochester. And AAG, we are starting this soon, this trial in the next 2 months with the same company, where they want to see the Indian patients, because for them, the Asian population is more challenging, because we have got diabetes, a very complex disease in our population compared to the Western population. So this is how it is done, as you see on the screen. The another one which I want to share or just give you a brief glimpse is this is again a sleeve balloon device. This is again from a US company. As you see the animation on the screen, so guide wire is mounted deep into the duodenum and jejunum, and then we insert this device inside, and this device goes into the duodenum, and it will create a balloon kind of thing where the food, whatever you eat, goes through this balloon channel, and then directly it will fall, bypassing the stomach, duodenum into the jejunum. So this is like a Roux-en-Y bypass, where you will be bypassing the whole duodenum and the nutrients will go and start absorption in the jejunum. And that's the reason why the insulin sensitivity improves. So that's how this device works. Then last few things about, there is something called as single anastomosis endoscopic gastrointestinal bypass, which is a little depth of endoscopy. I'm not going to bore you in that, where you have a device which will bypass the duodenum and the stomach. Gastrojejunostomy is what we call, where the contents directly after eating go from the stomach into the jejunum. And so you all know about the robotic surgery, which is a precision surgery. So we are not far away from that. Robotic endoscopy is not a myth, it's a reality. It's already being started, and in the next 4 or 5 years, we are going to expect it. So once you have a robotic endoscopy, robotic gastroplasty is also going to be a dream come true in the near couple of years. Then a last one which I want to share with you is jejuno-ileal diversion. You all must have heard from your bariatric surgeons, which is called as ileal interposition, which is a big robust surgery. So endoscopically, there is something called as jejunal ileal bypass or duodenal ileal bypass. What we do is we take endoscopy orally and colonoscopy aborally, and both the scopes come, and then we release the magnets. These magnets will create a fistulous communication between the jejunum and ileum. And that's how the ileal interposition, what surgeons do, is created endoscopically. We don't have a long data on this, but it's been done in few centers. We are waiting for that to evolve more. This I'll skip, I don't have to. So in summary about the duodenojejunal bypass liners, the main aim is to have a glycemic control, then indirectly weight loss, and of course the main thing what we all look upon, the cardiometabolic improvement in terms of reduction in the hypertension, blood pressure levels, reduction in the lipid levels, reduction in the triglycerides, and so on and so forth. So these are the FDA approved devices as of now in medtech devices in diabesity. That is the balloons, you have the Aspire Assist, which I told, the crude one. Then we have the Smart Bite, then you have this Gelesis capsule. And of course, now endoscopic sleeve gastroplasty is the standard of care, because there is a MERIT trial which is recently published in Lancet. So in fact, I would like to share that IFSO, which is the International Federation of Surgeons for Obesity, the largest body of bariatric surgeons in obesity, they have endorsed bariatric endoscopy as standard of care in the last meeting in Naples. And we are proud to tell that we have formulated the guidelines with the AAG and Mayo, and Bariatric Surgical Society, the biggest society in the world, is endorsed it, and it's going to be soon published in the next 2-3 months. And last but not the least, the digital healthcare technology, which again is a game changer. You have the fitness trackers, sleep trackers, mental health tech, which is again something very important to control the diabetes and obesity, smart scales, food scanners, gut microbiome. That itself is a big topic, which I'm not going to get into that. And the future, as I told you, in the next 10 to 20 years, you see many of the papers and the research going on the endobariatrics, where you do something at the stomach level and something at small bowel level. If you combine both with the GLP-1 analogs, it's going to be a game changer. With the due respect with the surgeons, we are not going to compete with surgeons. Morbid obesity above 40 BMI, surgeons have a definite role, but 30 to 40 BMI, where a patient doesn't want to get surgery done, if you combine this bariatric endoscopy with the pharmacotherapy, GLP and GLP-1 analogs, that's going to give you around 15 to 20% weight loss, which is going to be a fantastic improvement in the diabetes and obesity. So as we all know, the famous Plato's statement, necessity, the mother of inventions, we as doctors, researchers, and scientists have to try to give something back to the burning problem of this world, the diabetes. But again, not last but not the least, it's not a single man show. The success of the program will happen only when you have a multidisciplinary approach, because the bariatric surgeon, bariatric endoscopist, and more than all these people, the physician and the endocrinologist, those are the main bottom line first-hand people who will see this obesity and diabetes population. And they are the people who should also understand that there is something which is not competing with them, but it is going to be a cooperating with them, where if they have the pharmacotherapy, we have the other medtech devices or whatever you call them, bariatric endoscopy. If we join together, then that will be the best care what we give to our patients. With this, I'll just conclude my talk here and happy to take any questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Rakesh, for an excellent talk, and you're morphologically modified, academically advanced, and your presentation was very skillful. All these devices which you have shown us scares one, Dr. Premnath. He says we are doing much against the nature. Okay, there are many questions with a very elegant remarks from starting from Sangram Biradar, and then very neat guideline given by P.S. Shankar, and then followed by V. Mohan. We had an excellent talk by Ajay Kumar, and then of course Rakesh. Both the topics are now open. We have an excellent panelist, Dr. N.K. Singh, who is a renowned diabetologist, a great academician who is keeping us informing us about tips on diabetes through the separate WhatsApp forum. We welcome him. And then Dr. M.A. Shekhar, another eminent endocrinologist and professor, and presently Vice Chancellor of Aditya University, is here with us. Both these panelists are very experienced academicians, and they will be able to take you through the questions that are already posed in the chat box. I request both the guest speakers to be readily available for interaction. Then with the experience of N.K. Singh and Dr. Shekhar, we can have their expert comments in the panel. Over to Dr. N.K. Singh and Shekhar for a quick remarks, and then take up the questions to be answered.
Yeah, thank you, moderator sir. I think today's session, Dr. Sangram Biradar, you have it is very, very successful program today with two excellent speakers. Dr. Ajay Kumar has given something unique talk today, and Dr. Rakesh has again done something which is very fantastic. And our mentor, Dr. Mohan, has given us such an input, I think we will remember forever. So today, there is nothing better message from him for the World Diabetic Day. I have just two remarks that Dr. Ajay Kumar to respond that it has been seen that there is a considerable evidence suggesting that individuals with similar degree of obesity, but they can have a strongly different risk for the type 2 diabetes. And it is also some data exists that suppose 80% of type 2 diabetics are definitely obese, but only the many obese persons are there, 70 to 80% who never develop diabetes. So what is the concept recently of the metabolically healthy obese persons? And it is very difficult to get the remission, as you told, or the reversal, which could be a myth. But anyway, so can we develop a new concept that, well, you are an obese, we are not able to go for weight reduction as required more than 10% or 15%, but suppose his metabolic profile is quite healthy. So can we motivate such persons that you are okay, you go on doing your lifestyle modifications, and you do not need so much of things like so much low calorie diet and other things like bariatric surgery or something new and fantastic things coming up. So I would like that, what's your comment on this?
Thank you, Dr. N.K. Singh, for your wonderful comments. Now let's get two facts straight. The first thing is that for development of any disease, genetic predilection is extremely important. So it doesn't matter how obese you are. If you are not genetically predisposed or programmed for beta cell destruction, then possibly you can escape. That's the first statement that I would like to make. But at the same time, I would also like to put into perspective your statement that percentage of such obese people is very small, who are actually genetically protected in spite of huge obesity or significant obesity, not to develop diabetes or other metabolic diseases. So we have a very small percentage, and I think genetic predilection is the only explanation that we can think of. At the same time, the composition of the adipose tissue, we know about the white adipose tissue and brown adipose tissue. I think distribution of the type of adipose tissue in your body is also something to do. But then, of course, we are at a very preliminary stage of identifying these important parts of the science, which will actually determine that whether a particularly obese person will go on to develop diabetes and its complications or not. But I think by and large, genetic predilection is the best possible answer to this situation.
I think excellent, sir. I will just, Dr. Sangram and Dr. Moderator, sir, I would like to just tell one more thing, that something we are missing today. In my clinic, every day I'm getting persons coming with the new onset of diabetes. Age group is 20 to 30. They are coming from the rural background of the Jharkhand. They are doing plenty of work, physical activity. They don't expose to the so high calorie dense carbohydrate. Still, they are coming with 400 and 500 blood sugar. I'm really surprised what is happening to our people, at least in our part of the country. So I think there is something we are missing. And Dr. Mohan has given a very important clue up to that missing link, and that is the pollution. I wrote a chapter in the RSSDI textbook of medicine on pollution and diabetes. And today, definitely Government of India has also given a direction for the public. But as a society, we are not propagating it. I think, let me give 1 minute more, that the Government of India has given a just guideline that you wash fruits and vegetables in running water for at least 3 minutes. So not only the air pollution, but with the persistent organic pollutants, there is a moderate level of evidence that it is an endocrine disruptor and causing diabetes. So our people are exposed with the insecticide and pesticides. And to get rid of that, you need these such things. And such use a solution of vinegar or salt, soak the fruit and vegetables in for 5 minutes. So you can then remove that persistent organic pollutants. And also other things like organic farming and buying organic things, pest control. And also there is a small link, or you can see a weak link with the noise pollution. And we are totally missing this link. Air pollution link is not, again, a strong link, but a very weak link. But still it is coming up. So I think this is a good forum to tell our persons and our physicians that not only talking about the gluttony and the laziness, we should also promote this healthy lifestyle. We cannot get rid of the insecticide and the pesticides, but there are certain ways we can educate our person how to get rid of this pesticide and insecticide exposure. Thank you.
Thank you, Singh, for your added comments. Any comments from Ajay Kumar about the pollution helping in prevention of diabetes as well as induction of prevention?
I think this is a very exciting area. We have preliminary data. Once again, I think we cannot establish a cause and effect relationship with air pollution and development of diabetes. These are conjectures, and we need very hard data on this. But we have emerging data. We have at the one end of the spectrum type 1 diabetes, where we have immunological destruction of the beta cells. And on the other spectrum, we have type 2 diabetes, the garden variety of type 2 diabetes, where insulin resistance is the predominant background. And then over time, there is beta cell destruction. In the middle, we have a large subset of patients where we have destruction of the beta cells much early, as Dr. N.K. Singh was saying, in the second decade or third decade of life. And there is a toxic destruction of the beta cell. That may not be immunological, that may not be insulin resistance based, but toxic. And where is this toxin coming from? This toxin might be coming from our agricultural practices. You would recall that from mid-60s, our agricultural practices have completely changed. The entire chain of food production, the type of insecticides and the pesticides and the fertilizers that we are using today, and when you are processing your food, the type of preservatives and additives that you are adding to your food, what amount of damage these additives and pesticides and insecticides are causing to your beta cell, this is an area which we don't know. Very, very preliminary data is suggesting that these agricultural practices from soil to human body could be responsible for this toxic destruction, and that might explain the early onset of type 2 or 1.5 variety of diabetes in the second, third, and fourth decade of life.
Thank you so much, Ajay. It is an area for exploration and further research to take place. Now we have Dr. M.A. Shekhar, another eminent academician. Quick remarks from him and response on some of these facts.
You are unmute, sir. Unmute.
Shekhar, you have to unmute. Yeah.
Now it is. I was not allowed earlier. Anyway, good evening, everyone. Very happy to be a part of this intense discussion. Having had nearly 40 years of so-called experience in clinical practice, and especially so in the field of diabetes, I am at a loss to really say a very clear idea of why we developed diabetes. The issue now, if I look at it, is on one end, the insatiable quintessence of human, how do I say, optimism to find out a truth. On the other end is ignorance is bliss. Where do we stand? You know, I remember when we started out our practice, we had only two pathophysiologists, insulin deficiency, insulin resistance. And today, as Professor Ajay and Professor Singh were talking, Dr. N.K. Singh, I am a fan of extraordinary clinical acumen. Thank you for this CME that you keep doing. You have so many concepts that I'm very, very happy to say that we have an answer today, at least an assistant who can probably get us the answer, that is the AI in education, the digital transformation of how we learn things. You know, today, at least 15 concepts of pathophysiology of diabetes we all know. And Professor Ajay was talking about food, N.K. Singh was talking about persistent organic pollutants, all these funny things put together, which is important, we have not been able to do. Probably AI will have an answer for that. This is the first one. The second one is metabolically healthy obese people. They are also in the same milieu of these 15 risk factors. Metabolically healthy, thin individuals are also in the milieu. Why this fellow becomes diabetic and why this fellow does not become diabetic is $1 million question. The question is, we have to give weightage to these 15 risk factors and put together, is it going to lead to diabetes or, stand alone your so-called hepatic insulin resistance due to so many factors that comes into picture. And I'm surprised, insulin resistance, we thought only it was free fatty acid to start in little muscles. But everything that is iron excess, serotonin deficiency, gut-derived serotonin, they speak of, all of them lead to insulin resistance. Whereas insulin deficiency or beta cell dysfunction, the risk factors is very few. So as Professor Ajay was talking, it is the insulin resistance that leads to type 2 diabetes. And there are so many factors. How do we balance this is $1 million question. Let's see, we will discuss and see what the future holds for us. Thank you.
Thank you, Shekhar, for an excellent tips and your points of view. We have a question from Dr. Murali Mohan, who is our chairman of API Karnataka. He has appreciated the super talk by Dr. Ajay Kumar sir, and he has put a question which is addressing to both the speakers. Does the method of weight reduction matter, or weight loss alone is important? How do you achieve the weight loss? Is it important, like diet dominated restriction or exercise dominated concerns? This question is there. Should we really pray for bariatric procedures or go for these devices, especially in modest to gross obesity? I request both of you to quickly comment on this.
Shall I start first?
Sure, go ahead.
Please go ahead.
Okay. So I think this is a very intelligent question. It's extremely important that how you achieve your weight loss. I'll give you just one example. You can achieve a huge amount of weight loss with bariatric surgery or huge dietary restriction of 830 kilocalorie diet and so on. But we also know about the concept of sarcopenia, and we also know the role of GLUT transporters in the muscles. So if you do resistance training, and I was reading in the chat box, that's what he was alluding to. I think sarcopenia is a very important issue that with increasing age, and particularly if you are not exercising, etc., then you develop sarcopenia. And with sarcopenia, utilization of glucose and fatty acid, etc., in the peripheral tissues of the body will be diminished. That's very obvious. So if you do achieve a weight loss through an exercise program where you combine aerobic exercises with resistance training, obviously that is going to be much better, because that will improve your GLUT transport of, functions, that will improve your muscle utilization of glucose and adipose fatty tissue, fat in the body, and that will be much better than simply doing a huge amount of dietary restriction of 830 calorie or 1200 kilocalorie. That will make a difference. So the way you achieve weight loss is extremely important, and I think you have to strike a balance. We already know when we listen to these lectures on exercise that it is not only aerobic exercise, but resistance training, then high intensity intermittent training program, all these variety balancing exercises, all these are extremely important. So how you achieve a weight loss is extremely important. There are methods of weight loss which will trigger certain hormonal milieu, neurohormonal changes in the satiety center of the brain. When we talk about the area postrema, we have two set of neurohormonal. One is the satiety hormones and the other is the appetite hormones. So if you improve the satiety hormones and you suppress the appetite hormones, which GLP-1 receptor agonists do, I think that makes again a big change. So the method of achieving weight loss is extremely important. And what you have to do is to strike a balance, combining the various methods which target all the possible pathogenetic mechanisms.
Excellent. A quick comment from Rakesh on.
So I would like to. Yeah. Yes. So I would like to say, see, obesity because of binge eating is a psychological disorder. We all talk about lifestyle modification, diet, and all. So there's a nice paper in 2017 in NEJM where they have followed a captured cohort of population. Only 10% had improvement only with lifestyle. I won't say that bariatric surgery or bariatric endoscopy is a panacea for obesity, but if you take practically, you all will agree with me, a person who has got a BMI of 35, 38, 40, if he or she is advised to undergo lifestyle modification, practically speaking, theoretically, yes, it's not that easy. And if you see a morbid obese person telling him to do some exercise, it's not that easy compared to vis-a-vis a 30, 31 moderate BMI person. So in that, what I want to emphasize is bariatric endoscopy, of course, not a bariatric surgery, is kind of a bridge where you do around 10 to 15% of weight loss, you assist. And once they get that desired weight loss, then it's easy for them to follow the lifestyle modification and do. Not that everybody will, of course, you have to smartly pick up people who are really motivated, and then only you try to advise for these therapies. That's what I want to say.
Thank you, Rakesh. In continuation of the same, Dr. Abhay Deora has come up with a question. The biggest challenge is to maintain the lost weight.
Yes.
That is the thing. And how do you achieve that without going for you have not gone for any device or a bariatric surgery procedure, but you have achieved some weight loss by method of diet and lifestyle modification and physical activity. Having lost the weight, maintaining the lost weight is again a challenge. How do you achieve that? That is from Ajay Kumar. And then, of course, praying for bariatric surgery and procedures. What are its long-term consequences of multinutritional deficiency? How do you combat that?
Yeah. So I'll take the second question probably first. So if you compare bariatric surgery with bariatric endoscopy, none of the procedures will have any nutritional deficiencies and none require any nutrition supplements. If you see the Roux-en-Y bypass, that's where you need iron supplementation and B12 because of the malabsorption. But vis-a-vis, when you see the bariatric endoscopy, we don't give any supplements. And that's something which, as the side effects or after effects of dumping syndrome, they are all not there in the bariatric endoscopy. Coming to the first question, that's the biggest challenge in a person's life is once they lose weight to maintain it. That is something which is real challenging for more than 80 to 90% of the patients who lose weight. In that, obviously, the gut-brain axis plays a major role. You should have something here, the willpower, and of course, the sustainability of that, the nutritional supplements and all. So that's, again, there is no, if you ask me my personal opinion of a hard and fast therapy for that, it's again person dependent. So it again differs from person to person.
Now we have of course, comment from Dr. Premnath from Mysore. Fascinated listening to both the lectures. Personally, I feel we are going too much against the nature, and end results may not be the expected one. Weight reduction is a must, and if it is done with the natural methods, would not harm the patient, but it is difficult to do. That is his comment. Thank you, Premnath, for your comment. And
I have a two-bit answer for weight loss. Am
yeah,
I allowed?
please.
Okay. We have been talking about weight loss. Let me give a, how do I say, my insight to this so-called weight loss. Professor Ajay and Professor Rakesh said, weight loss of 15% or 20% of the previous will lead to whatever. You want to call it reversal, you want to call it normalization, etc. But in how many of them? That's the question we are talking about, because statistics are statistics at the end of the day. Now, when we look back in the so-called 2012 Banting lecture of Roy Taylor, he said twin cycle hypothesis of diabetes, one in the hepatic, one in the pancreas. And I was surprised at that time to know all it needs is 50-60 grams of triglycerides more in the liver and 50 grams of triglyceride in the pancreas that can lead to all this havoc. So how difficult is to lose this intracellular 100 gram of triglyceride is the quintessence question. As Professor Ajay was telling, when we lose weight with whatever work you do, whether it is endoscopic surgery or, name them across the menu, as he says, it's not just fat. They lose muscle, they lose bone. When they regain, as we were talking about maintenance of weight, it's only fat. To bring back bone and muscle, it is a Herculean task. So we know the concept of sarcopenic obesity. It becomes a double negative. Sarcopenia, insulin resistance; obesity, insulin resistance. Now, there are trials on, at least in the bench activity, how can we lose not subcutaneous fat alone? How can we lose intracellular fat? The answer, as Professor Ajay was talking about, is in the brain. What is that brain? You have two major hormones, the happy hormone and the satiety hormone, dopamine and serotonin, and of course, noradrenaline as the servant. If we can take care of these three in the right manner, D2 receptors, you remember bromocriptine and all that, probably more than subcutaneous tissue, more than visceral fat, if we lose so-called ectopic fat or hepatic intracellular and pancreatic intracellular with skeletal muscle intracellular fat, we have hit upon the answer.
Shekhar sir, can you also highlight something about what is the role of chrononutrition? So if you don't eat anything after 6 p.m., does it matter for the obesity or not?
Okay. You will have to come back because there are a lot of crackers being fired. I couldn't get the first part of role of
chrononutrition. You are
chromonutrition. Okay.
Chrononutrition. So don't take anything after 6 p.m.
Right. Chromonutrition has been there for a very long time. And I was reminded recently, I spoke about this. I am sorry, I do not know Sanskrita. In Sanskrita, there is a saying called as follow the sun. Follow the sun is when the sun rises, you eat. When the sun sets, you eat. This is what was happening in all those days, the Ayurvedic days and all that. When people would get up by 4 or 5 a.m., by 6:10, when the sun was up, they would eat something, go do all their activities of the day, come back, sunset, they eat and go to sleep. Okay? And there are plenty of concepts, owl concept, lark concept and all that. But chrononutrition is becoming very, very popular. But the issue now is, as Professor Rakesh was saying, it is all in your mind. A person who has to eat before 6, so many of our own elder people, especially from the community of Jainism, they're already doing it. But has it stopped from having them not having heart attacks and cardiac or diabetes events? No. So yes, in theory, chrononutrition has a value. But when it comes to practice, I don't think it's going to really matter. But that,
we have
there is
time.
a-
Yeah.
Excuse
Please
me.
come to conclude. Shekhar.
Having said that, there is a concept which is there in Sanskrita also, that Earth is moving or Earth is rotating for millennia, for more than 300 million years. That means sunrise, sunset has been occurring for 300 millennia, and physics and astrophysics, they say the change from 300 million years ago and today is not even 3-4 seconds. Can you imagine? The sunrise occurs 4 or 5 seconds this way, that way. Of course, according to your geography, it may be half an hour late or half an hour before. You're in Japan, it's half an hour early. Maybe in Africa, it may be late. But since millennia, Earth is rotating and sunrise and sunset is happening, whatever evolution that happened all over the universe, especially so in the planet that we live in, the third rock from the sun we live in, it is very, very practical and it is common sense. Please follow the sun. Have 2 meals, be very active, you're done.
Thank you, Shekhar. Chrono nutrition does work and follow the nature, and guide is sun. That's your message. Sangramji, there are 2 more questions. Can we take up for 1-2 minutes?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. No problem.
One question from Dr. Prabhakar K. He is asking, which is better, a very low calorie diet or low carb diet for remission of diabetes mellitus? What are the long-term effect of complications of diabetes with the diet restriction? Do you have a comment from Dr. Ajay Kumar?
I think between the two, low carb diet is much more important, because low calorie diet will of course lead you to weight loss, but specifically in terms of diabetes control beyond weight loss, low carb diet is the one which has been now widely accepted across the world. What was the question regarding the long-term complications?
Diet restriction on diabetes complications.
No, if you're, I think in the Roy Taylor's program where he gave 813 kilos, he took care of the micronutrients and the actual distribution of protein and fat into the diet. So I think that was not an issue. None of these patients actually developed micronutrient deficiency or whatever. No issues at all.
Thank you.
I would like to just point out one question which was asked by the way the weight loss is achieved. I think one very simple example will convince you that how methodology differs. Take the comparison between a GLP-1 receptor agonist and SGLT2 inhibitor. This is an established fact that if you stop SGLT2, even if you continue to take SGLT2 inhibitor, the weight loss which is achieved earlier is not maintained over a long period of time. But if you take a GLP-1 receptor agonist, if you continue, you will continue losing weight. And even if you stop, at least for a significant length of time, because that is the one which Dr. Shekhar was also alluding to, is affecting here the brain, the regulatory hormones that we are talking about, the satiety hormones and the hunger hormones, agouti-related peptide and YY, all these things are so much important that it really does matter that which particular variety of diet or exercise or agents that you're using to achieve weight loss.
One last question from
low carb and low calorie. I would any day go for low carb diet.
Absolutely.
That's the best way. You know why? Coconut, you remember? It's becoming so popular all over the world. And you all know, though it's a saturated fat, it has got short chain fatty acids, SCFA, which is very, very essential for brain activity. If your brain doesn't work, nothing works. Take it from me. You know?
Thank you, Shekhar. One last question is from Dr. Mansoor Hussain. He says, what are the role of infections in weight change and change in diabetic?
Again, you come back to gut axis.
Yeah.
Yeah, probably gut microbiota. That's what he.
Yeah, gut microbiota has a huge role, I think, these days, and lots of papers are there. And this is a very, very exciting.
So
once you go for this gut axis, I think the whole diabetology and obesity science is now being centered on the gut microbiota.
The fecal microbial transplantation.
Yeah.
We can have a separate talk on gut microbiota next time.
Yeah.
But we appreciate that all such interventions have not worked till date.
Yeah.
Anything related to gut microbiota, any therapeutic intervention in that context has shown very limited results.
Yeah,
No, that's
exactly.
evolving, Dr. Ajay. I would say that's evolving. In fact, there's a group from US which has done this FMT and then found reversal of fibrosis in fatty liver.
Yeah,
something very fascinating, and that's from a big group in US by very eminent hepatologists who have published the data.
Thank you, Rakesh. Thank you, Ajay.
The bacteria in the gut. I have to say, issue with bacteria in the gut is not just biota, it is also biome. The biota, there are 4 major categories, some of them anti-inflammatory, some of them anti-coronary. You know, there are 4 major, as Dr. Sangram was saying, we should have a discussion on this topic. But at the same time, microbiome, the genetic material of these microbiota make a huge difference. So microbiota and microbiome, it's becoming a duality. You give fecal transplant, you have to give a very specific one for specific disease. For ileal disease, something else. For coronary artery disease, it is going to happen. You know, there is definitely a lot of work that is being done. It's not the biota part of it, it's also the biome.
We will have a quick take-home message from each panelist, sir, before we conclude. Yeah, Dr. Ajay Kumar, sir, your take-home message.
Okay, my take-home message is that we should be realistic in our expectations from any intervention, whether we talk of dietary intervention, exercise intervention, drug intervention. I think individualized response to any intervention is extremely important. And if we are realistic, and most important thing, that any intervention is most effective when it is used early in the natural history of type 2 diabetes.
Yeah, thank you. Dr. Rakesh?
Yeah, so I would say it should be always a comprehensive, holistic approach where there is no competition between different arms. It should be a hand in glove with each other, where we have the nutritionist to start with, then the diabetologist, endocrinologist, and the interventions. They all should, and it is individualized as which was we have discussed. Each person will have his or her own way of treating, and we have to conceptualize the medicine according to their needs.
Yeah, Dr. N.K. Singh?
Yeah, I think I would only like to say that till now we are making our people aware about the gluttony and the laziness, take this and take that, the safe food and physical activity in a proper way. But now time has come that although Dr. Ajay Kumar told very rightly that we have just a missing link and a few data at the tab level, but still that is going to further explain this epidemic proportion diabetes increase. And that's why we should also educate our persons about the pollution control, about the noise pollution, about the air pollution, and about prevention, how we can prevent the exposure to the persistent organic pollutants. Thank you.
Yeah, Dr. Shekhar, sir?
Okay, I will be a little bit heretic in my conclusion. When I started out 38 years ago as a diabetologist, so-called diabetologist, I had a retired IAS officer as my patient. The first question he asked me was, "Are you a diabetic?" I said, "What are you talking? I'm so young, I don't have diabetes." "Then you don't know much about it, doctor," he said. And then he said, "You say you don't do this, don't do that, don't do this, blah, blah, blah. You have only told me about don'ts. What are the do's is more important. Because if you say don't breathe, solution is final." So taking the cue, in a 24-hour period, your patient spends about 20 minutes with you, and the rest of the time he or she spends with himself or herself. So it is time we make them empower our patients to decide about what they want, right? Plus individualize, as Professor Ajay said. I have done this. I empower my patients. I decide this is the way you go. If you say yes, I will prescribe. Individualize each one of them. Somebody can probably do very well with 0.5 mg of glimepiride, but we don't do that. We go by all those funny guidelines. If these two, that is my personal opinion, empower your patient, individualize with your wisdom, we probably will do a better job for our patients. Thank you.
Dr. Prasanna, sir?
I only take this opportunity to thank you for convening this meeting and making us all to participate and learn and discuss. Thank you, Sangram, and thank you, Vishwanath Krishnamurthy, our Secretary of API, as well as Murali Mohan, our Chairman of API. Thank you all the panelists, and it was wonderful to listen to everyone. And both the panelists are so experienced, and they have their own unique way of expressing the points to the participants. And Ajay Kumar was excellent. Presentation was excellent. And Rakesh, of course, was a good and illustrative presentation on MedTech devices. Thank you so much.
Dr. Vishwanath to propose a vote of thanks lastly. Unmute, kindly unmute. Unmute, Vishwanath, unmute.
Yeah. I take this opportunity to first thank our distinguished speakers today, Dr. Ajay Kumar and Dr. Rakesh. Really, it was worthwhile listening to you with all your experience and how to empower our patients. The different techniques also, as told by Dr. Rakesh, because there are options which I think we should be able to use. I immensely thank Dr. V. Mohan for the first impactful message he gave to us, sir. It was really quite informative as well as most impactful. That's what I felt. How as the doctors we should try to treat diabetes. Special thanks to Dr. BG sir. Always a great thing listening to him or following him. Dr. N.K. Singh sir, also thank you very much for moderation. And special words of wisdom as usual. Very eloquent, very crisp, Dr. M.A. Shekhar sir. I think thank you. We'll follow the Sun model. I think that's most important, as you said. And I also thank my chairman, Dr. Murali Mohan sir, for carrying out these API KC activities with help. As usual, our engine of academic activities, Dr. Biradar sir, thank you very much. I thank all the delegates who have participated. Thank you, one and all. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, one and all. Before we start, see you all at Mumbai RSS Day, exploring the academic feast.
Yeah.